Well, I graduated in the mid to late 90s from the Court Art Institute and met David in '99. And by the following year, I was working as his curator and worked with him ever since. He used his art to understand his place in the world. He was an amazing historian. He was always looking backwards in order to understand the present and even to prophesise about the future, I think. I mean, I've never met a mind like David's. I always think about his collecting in a similar way to the way that his mind worked. So you could be sitting with David, you can have a conversation about a painting. All of a sudden you'd be talking about Nietzsche, which would then lead him to a new film release or a book that I had to read, then back to another artist via Japanese folk art. And there were all of these beautiful networks between the works within his collection. The head of Girder poem was something that David saw on a daily basis. He lived with that painting and he loved that painting. He famously talked about it as being able to change the way he felt in a morning. So if he was feeling a little down, then he could look at the painting and I think it would exaggerate his sort of existential angst. However, if he was feeling buoyant, he could look at it and go, hell yes, I want to sound like that painting looks. And I love that. David did go to sites to understand the work that was being made, and he visited St Ives on a regular basis. If you've been to St Ives, you understand it's not just the light. Everybody talks about the wonderful light and that's what actually attracted artists and writers and thinkers. But it's more than that, St Ives. You walk along the coast and the cliffs and you see the historical stones. It's a mythical place. And I always get this sense of there being layers of history. And I think that's probably what attracted David as well. I think that Lanyon changed the trajectory of British landscape painting. I mean, he really was quite revolutionary. When people look at the collection as a whole, they'll probably look at a few works and not quite understand why they are there. But then you'll realise that X taught Y or Z visited X. There are all of these amazing associations, and I think that's how David worked. The Golden Calf was set up by Frida Steinberg in 1912 and was actually located on Heddon Street. Golden Calf was the club which housed decoration by a number of the Camden School group and also all of the illustrative work, menus, posters, marketing material was produced by Wyndham Lewis. And there's actually a work from 1914 in David's collection called Circus Scene, which I think links brilliantly with the work that he was doing in the Golden Calf. There's the same energy, there's that same dynamism that's mirrored also in the illustrative work. And of course it was Heddon Street. This is where Ziggy was photographed decades later. Well, David sought out artists, living artists, and he had great conversations with artists. You know, we must remember that he was on the editorial board of Modern Painters, and he wrote beautifully. And though the collection is incredibly serious, there are moments of lightness. The spin painting, you know, it's joyous. Those elements of chance, you know, and it was a funny process. I think David enjoyed the whole process of making that work as well. This collection is an insight into David's mind, what interested him, how he thought about the world, how he understood the world, how he positioned himself within a fractured world. He did that through the artists, and a lot of the artists were approaching their world in the same way as David was. I just feel incredibly lucky to have worked with David and to have worked with such an inquisitive, informed mind. He encouraged us all to look at the world in a different way.